Have you ever noticed the strange irony of our age? That we can manipulate atoms, code artificial intelligence, and capture the light of galaxies, born billions of years ago, yet still struggle to explain why we feel an inexplicable pull towards certain people, sometimes in the very first moment we meet them? We live in an era where science breaks boundaries and rockets escape gravity. Yet the gravitational pull between two human beings, soon explained, emotional, cosmic, remains one of the greatest mysteries of all. It's as if in this hyper-rational age, the heart is quietly reminding the mind that not everything essential can be measured. So let me offer you a possibility. Not a doctrine, not a dogma, just a possibility. What if our relationships are not always new? What if some of them are ancient? What if some people don't just enter your life randomly, but return again and again through time like the echo of a recurring orbit? In the language of physics, there's a phenomenon called quantum entanglement, where two particles, once connected, remain mysteriously linked no matter how far apart they drift. Alter one, and the other reacts. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. What if, just like quantum entanglement, there are forces in the universe that connect us even across vast distances in time? In physics, we know that particles once connected can remain linked, no matter how far apart they drift. What if human connections work similarly, and some of the interactions we experience are the result of forces we don't yet fully understand, forces beyond our current scientific models? You just know. You see, there are moments, fleeting but undeniable, when you meet someone and your intuition speaks louder than your intellect. You feel as if you're picking up a conversation that began long before your current name, your current story, or your current identity. This isn't mysticism. This is the observational science of the soul. It's the recognition that human connection may operate on dimensions we haven't fully mapped yet. Not everything can be captured in a microscope. Not every truth fits into a formula. And there are moments when we encounter someone where something in our brain triggers a sense of deep familiarity. It's not magic or coincidence. It's pattern recognition at its most profound. The human brain is incredibly skilled at identifying patterns, even when we're not consciously aware of it. And sometimes those patterns come from experiences we may not immediately recall. Now, let's be clear. This isn't a lecture about reincarnation in the religious sense. It's an invitation to expand your perception. You don't need to believe in past lives to be curious about the strange ways your life unfolds. Just as we don't need to see gravity to know it holds us, we don't need to understand every force behind connection to acknowledge its reality. What if your life isn't a linear path, but an unfolding spiral where unresolved lessons, unfinished stories, and ancient agreements find their way back into your orbit through people? Some connections challenge you. Some comfort you, some confuse you, but none of them are accidents. In fact, some of the most impactful relationships in your life may not be brand new. They might be part of an ongoing dialogue your soul's been having for centuries. So here's the question worth asking. How do you know? How do you recognize the subtle signs that you've encountered someone from your past life? Not with certainty, but with awareness. Not with superstition, but with observation. Across the next stretch of this journey, I'm going to walk you through 10 strange but powerful signs patterns you've likely encountered before, but never quite named. They are not scientific proof. They are human experiences, viewed through the lens of cosmic perspective. They are stories we all share but rarely examine. And as we explore them together, remember this: science begins with wonder. Discovery starts with asking strange questions. And the universe, both out there among the stars and here within the human heart, has a long history of responding to those who dare to look deeper. So let's begin with the first and perhaps most telling of these signs: instant recognition. I'm not talking about physical resemblance or shared interests. I'm talking about visceral knowing when you meet someone, and within seconds, your nervous system has already made up its mind. Your body relaxes, your guard drops, and a voice within whispers, "You've been here before." This is not imagination. In neuroscience, we refer to pattern recognition as one of the most sophisticated feats of the human brain. From faces to voices to the subtle micro expressions that escape conscious awareness, our minds are constantly scanning for familiarity. But what if some recognition doesn't stem from just this life's data? What if they emerge from deeper subconscious patterns that our brains have developed over time, processing information we might not even be aware of? The human brain is extremely skilled at recognizing faces, voices, and emotional cues, sometimes even before we consciously realize it. Imagine consciousness not as a hard drive storing your current life, but as a cloud of awareness, reaching beyond the now. And occasionally, in the presence of someone who has walked with you before, that cloud sinks. The download is instant, the feeling is profound. There's no logical reason you should feel that safe, that open, or that seen by this person. But you do, and no one can convince you otherwise. Some call it soul recognition, others frame it as emotional resonance. I call it the physics of familiarity. Because just as two stars once birthed in the same nebula remain gravitationally related even across the vast stretch of space, perhaps two human beings, like two particles once connected, continue to interact through the unseen forces of the universe, forces like gravity, which are indifferent to names, but bound to the laws of physics. When they meet again, the connection isn't some mystical force. It's the result of complex, familiar patterns that the brain recognizes and reacts to. And the force you feel when meeting someone from your past life can bend time, collapse memory, and make 5 minutes feel like 5 centuries. You're not crazy. You're responding to a blueprint that may have been written before your current brain had a name. Now let's talk about something equally strange: unexplainable attraction or repulsion. Have you ever felt instantly drawn to someone even if you didn't particularly like them? Or worse, felt immediate discomfort, suspicion, or even dread without any provocation? This isn't irrationality. It's biology trying to interpret metaphysics. On the surface, your mind searches for logic. Maybe it's their voice, their posture, or their energy. But the truth is, you don't know. And that's the point. Some of the most intense connections in our lives are not based on facts. They're based on force fields. You walk into a room and your body either leans forward or shrinks back. You're either pulled in or pushed away. Sometimes it's romantic, sometimes it's platonic, sometimes it's pure confusion. But what if these reactions are echoes? What if they're echoes of roles played in a past narrative that your body remembers? Even if your memory does not, perhaps this person once saved you, or betrayed you, I loved you, or harmed you. Perhaps you have unfinished business that transcends explanation, and your body, the most honest compass you have, is simply trying to point north through the fog of lifetimes. Science tells us that the subconscious is the storehouse of every moment you've ever experienced. It processes millions of bits of data per second, far more than our conscious minds can handle. So when your subconscious recognizes someone, it doesn't ask permission, it reacts. This is why some people bring out the best in us, calm, joy, ease, while others stir irrational emotion, discomfort, even tears. These reactions might not be about now. They might be the gravitational echoes of them. If particles can carry memory, and if space can curve, then why can't consciousness carry momentum? Perhaps our hearts remember long before our minds do. And perhaps in these unexplained attractions and repulsions, the soul is simply trying to finish what it once started. And then there's the eyes. Ah, yes, the cliche, the eyes are the windows to the soul. But what if we stop dismissing that phrase as poetic fluff and start taking it seriously as if it were a hypothesis worth testing? Because when you meet someone and their eyes look into you instead of at you, something ancient awakens. You're not just exchanging glances, you're exchanging data. Layers of memory, unfold unspoken, unprompted, undeniable. You may not recall their name. You may not recognize their voice. But something in their gaze feels like a mirror reflecting back a version of yourself you forgot existed. In that split second of locked eyes, the mind may remain silent, but the heart erupts in recognition. There's science to this. The human brain is wired for facial recognition, but eyes, those complex, expressive portals, transmit more emotional data than any other feature. We use them to gauge trust, detect danger, sense truth, but even beyond evolutionary psychology, there's a mystery that lingers. You see, unlike the rest of the body, the eyes don't age in quite the same way. The pupils, the gateway of light, remain consistent throughout a person's life. And perhaps, just perhaps, they remain consistent across lifetimes. If consciousness is indeed non-local, if memory exists beyond neurons, then what if the eyes retain some energetic signature across reincarnations like cosmic fingerprints? When you peer into the eyes of someone and feel chills, calm, or an overwhelming sense of home, you may not be seeing them for the first time. You may be remembering. Now, let's move deeper into a realm where dreams blur the boundaries of reality. Have you ever dreamt of someone you've never met and then met them? Or shared a dream, detail for detail, with someone you just started knowing? The logical mind will wave it off. Coincidence, it says, mere projection. But let's pause. Dreams are fascinating because, from a scientific perspective, they are a byproduct of the brain processing information. The brain is essentially conducting simulations of potential outcomes, but there are instances where people share similar dreams or experiences that seem uncannily similar. This raises intriguing questions about how our brains interact with each other in ways we don't fully understand yet. Suddenly, the private realm of the mind becomes a shared domain. Some researchers suggest that shared dreams could be the result of a deeper neural connection where our brains synchronize over time, creating similar dream experiences even across distances. While mainstream science doesn't have a definitive answer, there's no denying that the brain's ability to synchronize and process complex patterns can lead to shared experiences even in the dream state. And while mainstream science may hesitate, quantum theory doesn't rule it out. If time is not linear and consciousness is not confined to the brain, then why couldn't two minds meet across that invisible veil? Shared dreams may be less about fantasy and more about frequency. Like two radios tuned to the same station, two souls connected across lifetimes may continue their dialogue in the dream state, where the barriers of ego and language dissolve. And sometimes, when you awaken from such a dream, the residue lingers not just as emotion, but as conviction. You know you've been somewhere, and someone has been with you, maybe again. But not all signs are soft and mysterious. Some hit like lightning. That brings us to emotional intensity, the kind that feels unearned. Have you ever loved someone too quickly? Or hated them without cause? Felt joy in their presence that made no sense? Or grief when they walked away? Far deeper than your time together could justify? This isn't a drama. This isn't impulsivity. This is emotional memory, deeply ingrained in our brain's patterns. It's the way our subconscious stores and reacts to past experiences, sometimes triggering intense emotional responses. Our brains are wired to react to familiar patterns, even those we don't consciously recognize. And these responses can be powerful, sometimes intense enough to feel as if they carry a history of their own. Sometimes our emotions can feel disproportionately intense for a person we've just met. This can be explained by the brain's ability to respond to deep-seated patterns and past experiences. When we encounter someone who triggers a strong emotional response, it may be because our brains are recognizing something from past encounters, even if we don't consciously remember it. Emotions are not bound by logic, they are bound by resonance. That's why sometimes a breakup after 2 months hurts more than one after 2 years. Or why a person you just met stirs up jealousy, protection, or heartbreak. These are not random. They are echo stuff, past affection, past betrayal, past unfinished business. Your soul remembers, even if your story doesn't. It's not irrational, it's continuity. And in that same realm of invisible continuity lies another Marvel telepathic connection. Now, before you dismiss it, consider this. Science has already proven that the heart emits an electromagnetic field measurable several feet beyond the body, and the brain, even more. What if certain souls, deeply connected, don't need words to communicate? Have you ever thought of someone seconds before they called, felt what someone else was feeling from miles away, or said the same sentence at the same moment, then laughed nervously as if you'd hacked each other's thoughts? This is not a coincidence. It's coherence. Two minds, two hearts, syncing on a frequency established long ago. In physics, we call this resonance. In relationships, we call it intimacy. But when it happens fast, frequently, and without explanation, it may be a sign. A sign that this connection didn't begin here, it began there, and it never stopped. Another sign, subtle but transformative, is the feeling of completeness. Not the kind of completion you read about in fairy tales, but the profound sensation that something within you just aligned, like a puzzle piece clicking into place after years of wandering. You meet someone, and suddenly life makes a little more sense, not because they solve your problems, but because they awaken parts of you didn't know were asleep. It's not a dependency. It resonates. A memory of being whole, not alone. And when it happens, you realize you weren't searching for them, you were remembering them. Psychologists might call it projection or attachment. But deeper than that, it's about energy systems realigning after lifetimes of separation. In cosmology, we observe binary star systems to stars locked in a gravitational dance across space. Their movements, light curves, and gravitational fields reveal a story, that they orbit something shared. Perhaps some souls do the same. Perhaps after lifetimes of orbiting alone, you finally cross paths again, and the feeling isn't excitement or infatuation. It's peaceful. It's stillness. It's that quiet exhale that whispers, I'm not lost anymore. Then there are the patterns, those frustrating, recurring loops that play out like reruns. Have you ever noticed the same themes appearing in your relationships, no matter who they're with? Maybe you always find yourself the rescuer, or the abandoned, or the teacher, or the one who's never chosen. Despite different faces, different timelines, the plot remains strangely familiar. This isn't just unresolved trauma. It's karma in motion. Karma not as punishment, but as inertia. The universe, like physics, favors cycles until energy shifts. If you haven't learned the lesson, the pattern repeats sometimes through the same souls in different forms. Dolores Cannon believed that souls reincarnate in clusters like repertory theater, groups each life assigning new roles to old partners. One lifetime, your sibling. Another, your lover. Another still, your greatest rival. But the essence remains. The dynamic repeats until awareness dawns and evolution begins. So when you spot the pattern, when you recognize the rhythm of a lesson looping, again, it's not because the universe is cruel, it's because the soul is consistent. And in the recognition lies the opportunity to change the ending this time. And with that recognition comes one of the most profound gifts, healing. Meeting someone from your past life doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like disruption, like chaos, like a wound opening. But that opening is the beginning of release. These people act as mirrors, reflecting back to you the parts you've buried, rejected, or forgotten. In their presence, you feel exposed, not because they judge you, but because your soul is ready to confront what it has long postponed. They challenge your narrative. They break your defenses. They shine light on the shadows you swore you'd never face again. And strangely, that confrontation feels sacred, necessary. It's not about romance or destiny. It's about liberation. In astronomy, stars die in violence as supernovas, black holes, cataclysms, but through that destruction comes new birth, nebulae, planets, entire systems. In the same way, soul connections often bring spiritual upheaval, not to destroy, but to renew, to initiate the next version of you. So when someone arrives and your life begins to unravel, don't always run. Sometimes that unraveling is the beginning of your evolution. Sometimes they're not here to complete you, but to awaken you. And then there's the final sign, the sense of shared mission. The feeling that this person didn't just enter your life by chance, but by cosmic appointment. That somehow, inexplicably, your paths are aligned toward a greater purpose. You meet them, and suddenly your vision expands. You think differently. You act bolder. You dream bigger. Not because they told you to, but because something about their presence activates something dormant inside you. It's not about chemistry, it's about convergence. Two trajectories intersecting at just the right moment to redirect the future. Together, you may create, build, heal, teach, or simply witness one another's becoming. But the connection feels charged, directed, almost sacred. This isn't a metaphor. This is motion. In space, when two celestial bodies meet, they alter each other's orbit forever. And in life, when two souls reunite souls with history, with gravity, the result is transformation. They don't just accompany you, they accelerate you. And the mission isn't always monumental. Sometimes it's deeply personal. To teach you self-love, to restore your belief in people, to help you break a generational pattern, or to simply remind you that you're not alone in this vast spinning universe. So here we are. After 10 signs, countless questions, and a journey that has taken us not just across time, but inward toward the soul of connection itself. And now, perhaps, the real question is no longer, have I met someone from my past life? But rather, what am I here to remember? Because maybe, just maybe, the people we meet are not accidents or side characters in the script of our lives. Maybe they are fragments of a greater story co-authors of our evolution returning again and again, not to repeat, but to help us rewrite. You see, life on Earth is short, but time, as physics teaches us, is relative. And consciousness, it may be the most non-linear phenomenon we have yet to understand. So why do we limit our identity to one body, one timeline, one story? The stars don't. They die and explode into new ones. The universe doesn't. It expands, collapses, reshapes. So why should your soul behave any differently? Perhaps your life is not a single flame, but a constellation. Perhaps your soul is not new, but ancient, still dancing to the rhythm of orbits set in motion long before your birth certificate ever existed. And maybe, just maybe, some of the most important people in your current life were never new. They were only hidden, waiting for the right gravitational moment to reappear. Think of it this way. In the vastness of the cosmos, the chances of two particles meeting twice by pure randomness are astronomically small. But the universe doesn't always work by randomness. It works by patterns, gravity, magnetism, resonance. And in the same way, the human experience isn't always random either. The people who shake us, stir us, shape us, they're part of a deeper mathematics, a soulful physics. So, the next time you meet someone and feel a spark that doesn't make sense, pause, listen, feel. The next time you're drawn to someone for no logical reason, or repelled by someone without cause, ask not, why is this happening to me? But what am I remembering? What unfinished truth is returning? The universe has been communicating with us not through thunder, but through whispers. And sometimes those whispers sound a lot like the laughter of a stranger who feels like family, or the comfort of a voice you never knew you missed, or the ache of a goodbye that feels centuries old. We often chase the stars looking for answers, but perhaps the most important ones are walking right beside you disguised as friends, enemies, lovers, mentors, strangers, all asking the same silent question, do you remember me? And maybe now you will, because to recognize a soul from another life is not to chase the past, it's to awaken to the present with more reverence, more awareness, more awe. It's to understand that the most powerful forces in the universe are not only out there among galaxies, but in here between us, in connection, in memory, in love. And what a miracle it is that in a universe as vast as this one, your path and theirs crossed again. Maybe that's not just a coincidence. Maybe that's everything.